Well, listen, I want to welcome all 4 of our City First Church locations, especially God Behind Bars. Come on, let's give it up for them. Love you guys very much. You guys are amazing. Thank you for being a part of our church. Now, I don't know about you. I'm in a little bit of denial here. I can't believe that it is already 2018. To me, that's crazy because in 2018, Jen and my oldest son is graduating high school in 2018. That seemed like forever ago. And so now it's 2018. But you know what's so cool about 2018? I looked into this. There are actually some people that study the significance of numbers, both in the Bible as well as in Jewish tradition, and that they believe the number 8 is representative of new beginnings. So the number 8 means new beginnings, all right? Now, what is cool about that is this, is that if you look in history here, God created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested, and then what did he do on the 8th day? It was a new beginning, a new week. He began to move again. So this is the thing. If you want God to move in your life, let's believe that that's going to happen in 2018. Let's believe it's a new beginning, right? Let's believe that, a fresh start, a regeneration, a renaissance, you could say. And so I believe everyone listening, whether you're watching online or a God Behind Bars or one of our locations or right here at our broadcast location in Rockford, I believe all of us need a fresh start. In fact, let's even do this. If right now you say there's an area of your life that you need a fresh start, raise your hand, okay? All right, now look around. See all the hands? I mean, right? Because this is the thing. All of us have areas of our lives that we need a fresh start. It could be spiritually. Maybe you need a new beginning with your relationship with God. Maybe it is physically. Maybe in your health. You're asking God to help you in 2018 to have a new beginning. Or maybe it's emotionally or relationally. Maybe it's in your marriage. Maybe it's in your finances. I don't know where it's at, but I believe this. It's important to be able to draw a line and say, I'm no longer going to live in the past, but rather instead, I'm going to embrace a better future, all right? And in 2018, let's believe that God is going to give us a new beginning. This month, we begin a brand new series, and we're calling it You Are Here. And what we're talking about is where you're at and how to get to where you want to be. And so over the next 4 weeks, we are going to discuss this about a new beginning and starting over. I know that this is kind of the season where everybody does like New Year's resolutions and such, but we want this to be more than wishing. We want this to be something that there are practical ways that we can leave every single week knowing how to achieve our goals of the things that we want in life. And so I want to say this though from the get-go, that just listening to these teachings this month is not going to give you a new beginning. You have to put forth effort yourself, all right? All of us need to do. If you want to see difference in your life, it means that you need to do things a little differently, okay? And so just listening to the message does not give you a new beginning, but rather there's going to be some things that you're going to have to do. Like, for example, I want to encourage you to come every single week to City First during this message series to learn more and more about how to have a new beginning. And I know the minute I say that, some of you are like going, you don't even know the miracle was for me to show up today, all right? I get that, okay? Especially for those of you that maybe go, I don't do church, or, I don't come as often, or I come once a month, or whatever. I want to encourage you to start off 2018 right and come every single weekend in the month of January, because this is the reason why. We're going to talk about very practical, honest, and prayerfully inspirational ways that we can change and get from where we're at to where we want to be in our life. And so I really want to encourage you to do that. I know that you're like, oh man, that's a big commitment, but it will be beneficial. I promise you, at the end of this month, if you come all 4 weeks, you are going to know how to achieve the life that you desire, the life that God has for you. I believe that. Also, another thing is this, another little bit of homework maybe, is that we are basing this series out of this book by Andy Stanley. Andy Stanley is a great teacher. In fact, during these 4 weeks, you're going to hear a lot of truths, and many of them come from him. But this book was written about 10 years ago. It's called The Principle of the Path, all right? And we actually have these at our locations on the way out the door. If you'd like to purchase one while it's kind of fresh in your heart and in your mind, do so. This is a really great book to be reading during these these 4 weeks, okay? Because when you come on weekends, you're going to hear us talk. And then on top of that, between Sundays, you can read through this book. It's an easy read, but it is a very beneficial read, all right? And if you're like me, the minute you hit the car and go off to lunch or whatever else, you forget about it. So make sure you pick up a book on the way out, and I think that it'll be very, very beneficial. So here is a question that I want to start off with, and that is this. How many of you unashamedly say that when you drive, many times you get lost? Raise your hands. All right, yep, right? Doesn't that feel, it already feels like your 2018 is better. You're confessing and being free, right? Yeah. All right, how many of you are married to a person who frequently gets lost? All right, this is what I've noticed. It's kind of interesting. God brings opposites together, right? In fact, it's actually good because he brings opposites together in the area of directional intelligence a lot of times. Because many times someone who gets lost frequently is married to someone who maybe doesn't get lost and knows where they're going. And that's good because if you both get lost frequently, you're always lost, right? Now, if you're single, you might go, well, you know, this doesn't apply to me. No. You're wondering, out of the 7 billion people on the face of the earth, who am I going to marry? Well, this is how you narrow the field. You drive with them, all right? And when you drive with them, you immediately know if they are like you or they are opposite of you, all right? And if they're opposite of you, take interest, all right? That's the thing. So let me tell you some truths, though, about getting lost. You know, we're going to talk today a little bit about, again, we're using the metaphor of a journey, of a road, of a path, where you're at to where you want to be, GPS in it, that kind of thing. So let's give you some truths today about getting lost. First of all, number one is this, is that you don't know you're lost until after you're lost. I mean, right? It isn't like there's this moment that you're driving and you're like, oh yeah, right now I'm beginning to get lost. You don't do that. You don't know you're lost until you're lost, right? Number two is this. You don't know you're lost until you arrive at a place that you didn't want to be at. So you arrive at this place and you're like, where am I? I don't want to be here. This is not where I'm supposed to be. How many of you have had GPS fail before? Like you've been following the GPS and it takes you to a dead end, or it takes you to some place that you don't want to go. And you're like, I'm lost. I did not want to be here. Third truth is this. You don't get lost on purpose, especially if you be someplace. You know, you got to be there at a certain time. You don't, start your journey and go, today I plan to get lost. That is what I'm going to do. You know, there's that bumper sticker, not all who are wandering are lost. Most are lost. So this is the thing. Again, in our life, in our career, in our marriages, in our health, in every part of our life, it's easy to get lost, and then you find yourself asking this question, where am I? Like in your marriage, you've been married now for years or maybe even decades, and now all of a sudden you're looking at each other and you're going, how did we get here? I mean, what GPS were we following and how did we get here? How did I get here in my finances? How did I get here in my career? How did I get here in my relationships with my friends or parents or kids or other coworkers? Like how did I get there? And then, we look and we go, well, one of the things that we want to do is we want to go to the destination of our desire. We want to have a better way of, seeing ourselves in our marriage or places in our finances or in our spiritual walk with God. We want to be a better destination. So again, I think it's important at the beginning of a year to ask this question. At the beginning of 2018, where do you want to go this year? All right, where are you right now? And where is your desired outcome? December 31st, we get there, you look back and you say, yes, I was on the right path. What does it look like? What does it look like for your marriage? What does it look like for your family? What does it look like for your finances, your health, your career? So here is a great truth that we all need to start with. And it's by Andy Stanley. He said this, direction, not intention, determines destination. Now, I want you to look at that a minute. Keep it up there. Direction, not intention. Like we all have intentions. Like right now, I have an intention to be in the gym every day. So far, it ain't happened, all right? I have great intentions. I got dreams, let me tell you. I got wishes. I wish that dreaming was as easy as just arriving at the destination and vice versa, you know? That you could just be like dreaming about having a healthy body and boom, you have a healthy body, right? Wouldn't that be amazing? But this is the thing. Direction of your actions, not the intentions of your heart, determine the destination. You see, you got to look and you got to go, okay, just because I'm wishing and dreaming and desiring doesn't mean that that trumps the direction of my choices. So today, I may intend to be somewhere at the end of 2018, but I want to say that today we need to direct our lives so that we arrive at the destination of our desire at the end of 2018. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like if I were to get on I-90. I-90 is a highway that goes all the way from Boston on the East Coast all the way to Seattle on the West Coast. If I were to get on I-90 and I would head west, in about 3 days, I'm going to end up in Seattle. Now, I may intend to go to Boston. I may like the clam chowder in Boston. I may have pictures of Boston up on my refrigerator. I might have studied the Boston Tea Party. I might have looked at all the places I wanted to stay in Boston, but if I am heading in the wrong direction, I'm going to go to Seattle. And it's really this simple principle. I know you're looking at me going, well, duh, Jer, I came to church for this. All right, why do we have such a hard time understanding this when it comes to our lives? Like when it comes to our marriages or our careers. You know, we look and we go, in our education, I'm not going to do homework, but I want straight A's, right? Oh, I want to binge watch Game of Thrones, but I want a great marriage. You know, I really want to be healthy, but man, I like Big Macs every day, you know? You see, there are certain intentions and desires that we have, but our intentions do not trump the direction of our actions and the path that we are on. And then we find ourselves, maybe months or years later, whatever area of life, maybe it's our relationship with God. God, I really, really desire to know you. I want to pray more, but I like to hit the snooze button, right? And then we find ourselves later asking this question: how did I get here? How did I get here? Like maybe you came to faith in Jesus when you were a youth or young adult, and you remember those days. You're so, quote unquote, on fire for God, and you were passionate. And now it's 20 years later, and you're like, how did I get here? Or you were so in love with your spouse when you first got married, and everything was just amazing. It was new. And then 2 decades later, it's like, how do we get here? Or maybe even with your health or your finances or your career or whatever. So listen, let's do this month. Let's begin to ask God to give us new paths. Let's ask God to put us on new roadways so that we will end up at the destination of our desire, so that we don't wake up one day and go, man, how did I get here? See, the simple answer of how did I get here is this, is that we ended up where our choices led us. Now, the minute I say that, I know I'm not telling you anything new. I know that you hear this a lot, especially in January of every year. I know that you probably know this intuitively. You're smart, you get it. But today, I'm just gonna simply say that our intentions do not trump our choices. And if we can understand that and use that as our starting block going into this month, I believe God is gonna give us a game-changing month then, and that we will find our lives on new paths. Unfortunately, though, intentions do not trump our choices. You can give that a round of applause if you want. So our lives are traveling somewhere. Okay, can we just start out by that? We are on a road and our lives are traveling somewhere. Our marriages are going somewhere. Some people look at me sometimes and be like, our marriage is stuck. Nope, there's no marriage that's stuck. Your marriage is moving in a direction. It is on a path. You may feel like it's stuck because it's going in a direction you don't want it to go. But there is nothing neutral. We don't have a neutral gear in life. It is either forward or reverse. We are going somewhere. Does that make sense? And so your marriage isn't stuck. Your health isn't stuck. Your education isn't stuck. Your finances aren't stuck. Your career isn't stuck. Nothing is stuck. We are on a path somewhere. Do you hear that? And so we got to understand that that path is taking us somewhere. But here's the question. Is that somewhere where you want to end up? Is that somewhere the destination you want to be at? And here is the great lie that we all have to just point out today. We're having a big moment of honesty here, and that is this. The lie is, I am the exception. I'm the exception. In other words, I can make these choices that other people have made, and they ended up here. But if I make these choices, I won't end up here. I'll end up over here. And so I know everybody else that has gone, wanted to go to Boston and instead ended up in Seattle went west. But I'm going to go west, and God darn it, I'm going to end up in Boston. We think we're the exception. We think we're the one that can beat the odds. We think that we can beat the odds because our intentions and our desires are strong. But at the end of the day, we have this idea that that is what happens to other people, but that will not happen to me. Now, here's the problem. The problem is that we think because we are unique, that our story is unique. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean this, that you know what? We are unique, you're unique. In fact, when God made you, when God made me, when he made the person sitting next to you, he broke the mold after he made you, okay? So you are unique, but can I tell you your story isn't? Your story is not unique. In fact, your story is much like the person next to you and the people that came before you. You ever heard that saying that says history repeats itself? You ever heard that before? It's because it really does. Because people's stories are more similar, even though they individually are very unique. And really what it does, to understand this, it all comes down to perspective. It comes down to how we see our lives. And unfortunately, a lot of times, we don't see our lives very clearly like other people see our lives. Let me give you an example. You ever been at like let's say at a stoplight? Okay? And you're just sitting there minding your own business, and all of a sudden you see a car coming this way, and you see a car turning this way, and you see it. You see there is going to be a collision, right? You see it. You're like, oh, no, crash. Why? Because you saw it coming from your perspective. The two people in the two cars, though, did not see it, or otherwise, guess what? They probably wouldn't have crashed. And in the same way, you and I have great discernment when it comes to other people's lives. You're a young woman, and you start dating this guy, and this guy has had 27 girlfriends before you, and your good friends and your mom and everyone around you goes, you should not date that guy. He is a serial dater. And what do you say? Not with me. I'm different. All the people around you have great discernment. You're like, nope, I'll tell you what, I'm all in. And then what happens? You become number 28, right? Now, this is the thing. It's in all areas of life. You see it. You see it sometimes. You and your spouse, maybe you have another, married couple you're friends with, and you're starting to see that they're working a lot. They're not spending a lot of time together, and they seem stressed, and they're spending a lot of time in separate places and all that. And then you begin to notice that, like, when you are with them, that their interaction with one another, it's a little off. There's something a little kind of weird. You can't really put your finger on it, right? And you mentioned to your spouse, you're like, I'm kind of worried about the Johnsons. It seems like their life or their habits or what they're doing, it's kind of like their marriage is stressed, right? You have great discernment. Guess what? The Johnsons don't see it. The Johnsons don't see it. Because in the moment, they don't have the perspective. Let me give you an example here with this video, all right? I want to show you a video of a guy walking down a street. And we have great perspective. Here's the guy walking down the street next to the telephone pole, and stop. Now, if you notice here, there's a car. A car is coming, like swerving into oncoming traffic, right? And heading directly for this guy. Now, how do we see this? We got great perspective. But guess what? This guy doesn't see it. He's just staring at the sidewalk. He's walking along thinking this is the best day of his life. All right, unfreeze. Ready? All right, stop. Okay, now all of a sudden he sees it. And he sees it. Now some of you are like, I don't know if I can laugh. All right. I know it's a little tension in the room all of a sudden, right? Because he sees what is happening now, but it's too late. Now, we saw it coming. He didn't see it. This is life. Sometimes people around us can see it coming and we don't see it. We think we're the exception. But yet, at the same time now, how is he going to get out of the way of this? All right, let's go ahead and unfreeze it. If this guy didn't believe in God, he does now. Okay? So, this is the thing. You see, it's the same way with us. We many times don't have an accurate perspective as we are just meandering through life, right? Day in and day out. But God has a great perspective. In fact, he has a perspective much like we had in that video where we could see the whole thing. We could see the danger coming. We could see the pitfalls. We could see where this guy could have been safe. You see, many times we think to God, oh God, I don't want to live my life the way you want me to live my life because I'm the exception. I know you say I should do this and don't do this and don't do this, but guess what? I'm going to end up in Boston, right? Don't we do this? I do this. And when you have the wrong perspective, many times you make the wrong decisions. So we've been reading through this book called Proverbs. It's found in the Old Testament. Proverbs is written by a guy by the name of Solomon. Solomon is actually the wisest man to have ever walked the face of the earth in the Old Testament. Okay, the only one wiser than him in all of human history, according to the Bible, was Jesus, all right? So in the Old Testament, Solomon writes these wisdom keys. And now what we've done thousands of years later, we compiled them into like these chapters in this book called Proverbs, all right? And what we're doing as a church is in the month of January, we start on Jan 1, we are reading a chapter a day because there's 31 chapters in Proverbs, all right? So there's 31 days in January. Now, if you haven't joined in yet, it's not too late. You can, catch up or start on the 7th today and then just wrap it around in February for the first 6 chapters. But my point is this, is that we're reading this and we go to the app and the app helps us connect and sends us reminders and all that kind of stuff. Well, Solomon has a perspective about a situation. And I want to read you, this is a situation that kind of takes a little bit of the oxygen out of the air. Okay, this is a story. We don't know whether it is a real story. We believe it is. But basically, this is a story about a young man, and Solomon, the wisest man ever, has a different perspective than this young man does. Let's read out of Proverbs 7, which is today's reading, by the way. Start at verse 6. These are excerpts out of the next few verses. While I was at the window of my house looking through the curtain, I saw some naive young men, and one in particular who lacked common sense. That's what he says. He was crossing the street near the house of an immoral woman strolling down the path by her house. It was twilight in the evening as deep darkness fell. Stop. We already know the end of the story, don't we? I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what's going to happen right now. In fact, you never maybe read the Bible in your life, and you're like, I already know this story, because we have a perspective. Okay, so Solomon has this perspective. He sees this kind of immature youth without like any common sense, walking down the street. He's just walking down the sidewalk thinking this is just another day. He's coming up on this lady's house. And evidently Solomon knows who this lady is because he lives in the neighborhood. And evidently she has a little bit of a reputation, you could say. It says this, the woman approached him, seductively dressed and sly of heart. She threw her arms around him and kissed him, and with a brazen look, she said, I've just made my peace offerings and fulfilled my vows. All right, try that pickup line at the bars. Doesn't really work. What does that mean? In today's context, it means nothing. Back in Solomon's day, let me tell you what it means. It means this, that she had just gone to the temple, to the church, and she had just asked for forgiveness for all of her sin. That she basically went there with her, sins, her list of sins, and basically gave an offering to God and asked for forgiveness. And God erased her sin, forgave her, and now she's ready to fill up the sheet again. That's really what's going on here. She's saying, hey, listen, I've asked for forgiveness, so I'm good. Time to have a reason to go back to the temple. I mean, really what's happening here, she's not a prostitute. And a lot of people think this is a prostitute. It's not a prostitute. She had money. She doesn't need the money. She evidently is following some sort of kind of religious rules, although obviously her heart is disconnected from what she's doing. And she's basically looking at this young man and going, guess what? I've made myself clean in a sense before God? Let's hook up, all right? So it says this, "You're the one I was looking for," she says to him. "I came out to find you, and here you are." And this guy is thinking to himself, me? Me? Like Solomon's just watching this. He's seen it a lot of other times before. That this woman evidently would come out of her house and look at a guy and say, "I have been waiting for you." And so this young man, again, naive and lacking common sense, is like, me? Wow, I just think like I'm just walking down the road. And you have been waiting for me? What he should have done is said, "Oh yeah, what's my name?" But instead, he's gullible. And she goes on to say this, "Come, let's drink of our fill of love until morning." That was a little bit more of a masculine kind of like Italian thing going on, I'm not sure. But anyway, "Let's enjoy each other's caresses, for my husband is not home." Uh-oh, ho. Everybody said, All right. He's away on a long trip. He followed her at once. The young man followed her at once. What does Solomon say? Like an ox going to the slaughter. See, Solomon has a very different perspective of what's going on here. Why? Because he's watched this happen and play out probably dozens of times. He's looking out his window and he's like, there she goes again. And here comes some sucker. And so this young man is thinking, this is the best day of my entire life. And Solomon's going, you're dead. Perspective. He was like a stag caught in a trap, awaiting the arrow that would pierce its heart. He was like a bird flying into a snare, little knowing it would cost him his life. So Solomon is starting to give like these metaphors, these analogies now. He's like a stuck pig. He's dead as a doornail. I mean, he just keeps on going on here, right? Trying to drive a point. Then he says this. Now he starts talking to us. "So listen to me, my sons. Pay attention to my words. Don't let your heart stray away toward her. Don't wander down her wayward," what's that word? "Path." Okay. We say, why are you telling the story? Because this man thought he was having an event, but actually he was on a path. He was on a path. Now you go, I didn't realize I was going to come to church today and hear a sex talk. All right. No, this isn't a sex talk. What this is, I want you to hear Solomon's perspective. And I want you to see it in the grander scheme of things. This isn't just about this adulterous hookup, all right? What he's trying to say is he's trying to say this, that many times in life, we think we're just making a choice in an event, but really what we're doing is we are on a wayward path. And years later, you wake up and go, how did I get here? How did I get here? Where am I? No one knows they're lost until they're lost, right? So in culture, our culture separates actions from outcomes and says intentions are all that matter. This is so true. In fact, a lot of times people will say this after they make a mistake and get caught. They're like, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. Well, you know, what they're really saying is, I thought I was the exception. I started heading towards Seattle and thought I would get to Boston. Oh man, I didn't mean to, right? Because all of us have done this. You and I, we've all done it. We look at God and we go, God, I'm going to do my own thing because I'm the exception. That happens to those people. It won't happen to me. And I am going to do my own thing and expect different results. What is it, that famous saying? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? So in 2018, let's not do the same thing. Let's not do the same thing over and over again. Let's believe that God can put us on a new path because every path has a destination. Do you hear that? And in our case, God has the great perspective. He sees all the pitfalls. He sees the oncoming cars. He sees the problems. He sees the lady on the corner. He sees it all. And he's trying to navigate us to a place that we want to be, where we have the life that we've dreamed of, that we desired, that we're fulfilled. He wants us to have that, but we got to follow him and have his perspective. Does that make sense? So many times, we don't listen to him because we think we're the exception. But what's our goal as we close today? What's our goal for today? Well, our goal is this, is that we need to be honest and realize the path that we're presently on. We gotta be honest about the path we're on. And we have to realize that we are not the exception. Now, I know that sounds like real simple, but this is where we begin. In this 4-week journey of here you are, or you are here, in this series, that in this journey, we need to start with this idea that we are not the exception. We are unique, but our stories are not unique. And if we make certain choices, it's gonna put us on a path towards a destination. The question is that the destination we wanna be at someday? As we close, a thought. Whatever captures your attention will steer the direction of your life. Whatever captures your attention. Like already, some of you are like going, I'm gonna get on a diet in 2018. And then the cheeseburger caught your attention. Right? Whatever captures your attention steers you. Steers you. Remember when Jen and I were young, long time ago, and remember when she caught my eye, and I wanted to ask her out. Before that, Friday nights, Saturday nights, I'm going out with my friends. I'm having a good time, and then all of a sudden, Jenny Johnson caught my eye. And all of a sudden, I started to not hang out with my friends on Friday night. And all of a sudden, I started spending stupid amounts of money. Right? Because whatever captures your attention begins to steer the direction of your life. People are like, I want a good marriage. I want to have better communication with my wife or my husband. And then Game of Thrones captures your attention. Binge. Right? Or you know what? You want to have great grades at school. You're like, yeah, I know I need to get good grades. I have dreams of having a career in some field. But then YouTube or video games just captures your attention. Blow off homework, right? I'll figure it out. Finals will come. I'll do fine. I won't study. Right? Captures your attention, begins to steer the direction of your life. Trying to get yourself financially sound, 2018, but that 4K TV captured your attention. It happens to all of us. I know it's quiet because everybody goes, oh gosh, Jared, don't be so honest. Well, it's all of us. Our stories are way more similar than what we think. And so all of these decisions put us on a path. And that path leads to a destination. So here's your assignment for next week. Some of you are like going, we have to have an assignment? Yes, it's an easy one. In fact, when I say it, you'll automatically know the answer. That is how easy this assignment is. I want you to think of one area in your life right now, that you know you are on a wrong path and you want to be on a right path. It may be spiritually, financially, physically, relationally, emotionally. I don't know what it is, but you know right now, it's like one area of your life that you go, if by the end of 2018, I could actually be on a different path because I think this path is heading to the wrong destination. I think I'm the exception and I'm not today. I figured that out. So this is the thing. I need a new path for this area of my life. My relationship with God needs a new path. My relationship with a significant other needs a new path. My relationship with my coworkers, my finances, my health, my whatever it is needs a new path. What is it? Some of you are like going, I only get to pick one area of my life, right? Well, I know we all have like 20, but can I tell you what is the biggest one? Because let's put handles on this thing. Let's in the next 3 weeks after this weekend, come back, and I promise you, if you come back every single week, that area of your life that just popped into your mind, you will know how to get it onto a right path by the end of this series. Because we are gonna talk very practically, honestly, and hopefully inspirationally on how to make sure it gets on the right path so that it gets you to a destination someday where you don't go, how did I get here? But rather instead saying, I have arrived. Okay, do you hear that? So come back next week. We're gonna tell you how to take the first steps. But do you have that area in your mind? Because what I'm gonna do now is I wanna pray for you, okay? And we're gonna pray as we close today, as we give this area to God. And some of these areas are big areas, right? Some of you are like going, man, this area, I don't even know if God could change it. It seems like it's impossible. No, God is the God of the impossible. He's a supernatural God. He can take what is a natural problem and turn it around. But he needs not only our permission, but he also needs our will. Does that make sense? So that we would say, God, we're gonna do things your way and listen to you from your perspective. So let's go ahead and bow our heads, close our eyes. Got that one area in mind? Heavenly Father, we all have this one area that we want to see change. Lord, it's on a path right now, and it's going towards a destination that we don't desire. So God, I pray you know all the thousands of areas represented by people who are watching either right now, online, or on TV, or one of our locations. You know every single one of our minds and our hearts. So God, we give you this area. We say, we're willing to change. We're willing to admit that our good intentions don't change the direction, but only our right choices will. So God, help us to make right choices. In the next 3 weeks as we come back, every week, I pray that God, you would help us to learn and then apply what we learn so that by the end of 2018, this one area would truly be on a different path. And God, for those of us that our faith is weak right now, believing that this area can change, God, embolden our faith right now. Help us to understand you can do anything. You are the God of the impossible. Any marriage can turn around. Any financial situation can turn around. Any health situation can turn around. Any relationship, any career choice, any path of life, whatever it is, you can turn it around. We know that. So God, embolden our faith to believe it, I pray. Lord, we thank you, God. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. See you next week.